Miami-Dade County has its own system to determine the final grades a student receives in any given class. Now, this is, of course, aligned to the way that the Florida rules for the Department of Education determines. But to determine what a kid's grade is, you have to do this. Each quarter, you can earn a certain number of points. An A is worth 10 points, a B is worth 7.5 points, a C is worth 5 points, a D is worth 2.5 points, and an F is worth no points. Now, to determine the final grade for the year, you have to put together the points that you receive throughout all the quarters. So, for example, if you receive an A 4 times, you're going to get 40 points because that's 4 quarters with 1 A in each worth 10 points, so you get 40 points. So, to determine where you are at as a student, what you would need to do is convert your grade to the points using this system and then determine how many points you got. Then see how many quarters you have left and find out what grades you need to earn in order to reach the goal that you want. The goals are like this. To earn an A at the end of the year, you typically have to get 35 out of the 40 points, or 88% of the points available. So it's actually less than 90% to get an A. To get a B, you have to do 25 out of the 40 points available, or 71% of what you needed to get. To get a C, you only need 15 points, and look how ridiculously our educational system is. That is about 38% of the year. So if you achieve 38% of the year, you pass the year with a C. It is incredibly easy to earn a C at the end of the year if you stop to think about it. And then to earn a D, you have to get 25% of the year completed, or 10 points total. Now notice that for high school students, 5 out of the 10 points must be earned on the second half of the year to pass. So that means even if you get 2 A's on the first 2 halves of the year, if you earn yourself no points on the second half, you still fail the course. And that's kind of like the high school rule about the second half. At least 5 points out of the 10 minimal required points must be earned on the second half of the year in order for you to pass. Now, notice how the percentage of points that you need shows you a picture of that educational system is actually not asking for that much. Now, it is kind of hard to get an A and a little hard to get a B, but definitely very easy to get a C and very, very easy to get a D. And it's kind of ridiculous that you can even get a passing grade with only 25% of the course completed. But remember that a D is not going to be enough to pass high school. You need a 2.0 average to graduate from high school. So if you get Ds on all your classes, that's not going to be enough. Now, also remember that these grades, these final grades, are then converted into GPA points. So if you get an A on a class, you're going to get a 4.0, a 3.0 for a B, a 2.0 for a C, or a 1.0 for a D. And that's how we call that unweighted GPA, or the GPA you receive on a regular class. Now, some colleges calculate this differently, but in the Dade County, we weight the GPA this way. All right? If you are in an honors class, your weighted GPA, only the weighted, you still get an unweighted GPA, which is based on if all the classes were considered regular, you know? But if you're in an honors class, though your weighted GPA gets 1 bonus point, so you get a 5.0 for earning an A, and if you earn a B, you get a 4.0 for that. So it's the same thing, or the equivalent of getting an A in a regular class. For an AP, or an International Bachelorate, or a dual enrollment class, you get a 6.0 for that class, or for an A, and a 5.0 for a B. Now notice that you receive no honors points if you have a C or a D in an honors class. So if you're getting an honors class and you're getting a C on it, you might as well have been in a regular class, because you probably would have done better and got yourself a 4.0, maybe an A in the class. But if you're going to be in an honors class and earn a C, that's really detrimental. You know, it's kind of like pushing honor students to really be at the top of their game and earn the A's and the B's in order to actually qualify. Because earning a C in an honors class, you probably learn a lot more than you would have learned if you got an A in the regular class, which means you probably could have gotten an A in the regular class, but you slacked in the honors environment, and so you end up getting less of a point than you would have if you had been in a regular class. So that basically means honors classes are not for everybody. You got to make sure that you place on a class that you belong, a class that you like. I wouldn't necessarily take honors classes just because I'm a good student if I don't like science. You know, I wouldn't take an AP Science if I don't like it, unless I know that even though I don't like it, I'm going to try as hard as I want, you know, or as hard as I can't. You know, because if you don't try as hard as you can and you don't like it, it's going to be a problem for you. So try to take honors classes if you like the class, or if you are a really good student who's going to try hard no matter what, even if you like it or not. Honors classes and AP classes are not supposed to be for everybody. Remember, only 35% of people end up going to college. So you shouldn't have a lot of people in honors classes, and that's one of the biggest problems in education, that there's this current drive to push people to honors classes, and what ends up happening is that these kids are unprepared to deal with the reality of an honors class and all the high standards that come along with it. But anyways, that's how you calculate your GPA points for any given class. It is also how you calculate how much points you need to get a final grade in a certain class, and also how many points you get per quarter for any given class. So, to give an example, or a practical example of this, let's say a student gets an A on the first quarter, and then you get an A on the second quarter, and then you get a B on the third quarter, and a B on the fourth quarter. That means you would have gotten yourself 10 for the first, 10 for the second, and then 7.5 for each of the last 2 quarters. That's 15 on the second half, so you definitely passed because you needed a 5-point minimal and on the second half, or 10 total. And you got 10 plus 10, so that's 20 plus 15, that's 35 points. So you see, this setup here is enough to earn yourself an A at the end. So you don't need to get straight A's to get an A in the class. You can get an A, B, B, or A, B, A, B, or A, B, B, A, or B, B, A, 2 B's, 2 A's to earn yourself an A at the end. And that's kind of how it works. In fact, you can even earn yourself a C. Let's say, for example, that you get an A, and then you get a C on your third quarter. That means you only got 5 points for this one, but if you go ahead and get an A on the last quarter again, you're still going to add up to a total of 35. So as long as you get at least those 35 points, which whatever combination of grades you get, you're going to pass the class with an A. Likewise, you can do different combinations of grades to get a B in the class. For example, a B and a B plus a C and a C, that means you're going to get 10 points here in the second half. You pass because of the 5-point requirement. And then you get 2 B's. That means that you're going to have 7.5 plus 7.5, that's 15. Plus the 2 C's here, that's a total of 10. That's 25 points. You earn yourself a B. So that's kind of how it works. And what you need to do to find out where you are at is you have to see how many points you have earned already and how many quarters are left, and what grade you need to get to whatever grade you need. So let's say, for example, you want to get a B in the class. That's what your goal, at least a B in this class. And I got in the first quarter, I got an A. In the second quarter, I got a B. And then I slacked off in the third quarter, and I got a D on that class. Now I'm in trouble. Let's see what happened there. I got myself 10 points in the first half, and then I got myself 7.5 points on the second quarter. And then that D only gave me 2.5 points. Now, I'm in trouble because I need to earn at least 2.5 more points to even pass if I'm a high schooler because of that 5-point minimum on the second half. But if I tally this up, I'll see that I have 20 points already. So you see, at this point, all you need to get a B in the class is a C, because a C will give you 5 points, and this is going to total up to 25, which is what you need to get the B. So you see, you can figure out what you need to actually succeed and plan out your grades. Now, of course, you should always shoot for the highest grade possible. You know, you should value learning for the sake of learning. Grades is not what matters. It's learning that matters. It's the experience of learning, of becoming a better person, that should really drive you. External motivators like grades should not be the focus of your goals. Your goals should be going to school to become a better person and learn more. But, of course, grades are important, and that's how you calculate them. Now, I would like to end this video with a little comment about Eeoc courses. On Eeoc courses, this is all different. Now, in the 2011-2012 year, Eeoc courses are worth 30% of your final grade. So the grades are actually calculated slightly different. You're going to get your first semester grade, and you're going to average it out and see how many points you got, and transform that into a 4.0 scale. Okay, so let's say, for example, I got an A and a B. That's 10 and 17.5. So that's about half of 35, so that's enough to earn an A for that first half. You know, you do the same thing for the second half, and let's say you earn an A on that as well. So you're going to get, these parts here are going to be worth 4 points each, because the 4.0 is what you get for an A. Remember that, right? Then you get the Eeoc grade, and let's say you get yourself a B on the Eeoc, so you're going to get a 3.0 for that. Okay? Now, each of these half the years is worth 35% of the total. And okay? And each of the EOCs were 30% of the total. So you got to get this 4.0 and multiply by 35%, add to this 4.0, multiply by 4%, add to this 3.0, multiply by 30%, and find out your final average GPA. Now, if your average GPA is something close to 3.5, which is the minimum for an A, remember 35 points, 3.5, then you end up with an A in the class. Now, it's a little more complicated with the EOC this year, 2011-2012 year, and I can help you out figure out in class if that's what you need. But basically, understand like this. Whatever grade you got in class, if you get one grade higher on the EOC, it typically will bump your grade one letter grade higher, depending on your particular situation. But remember, each semester is weighted at 35% of the total, and then the EOC is 30% of the total final grade. Now, and this is actually how some states do it. And they may have different weights, but this is how some states do it. Now, in next year in Florida, the Eeoc Courses, your grade doesn't matter at all. In fact, it's almost to the point that giving a grade is meaningless for the teacher. Because at the end of the year, you take the EOC test, and the EOC grade determines your final grade for the class. So if you earn yourself at least 3.5 on GPA points on the EOC. In other words, you're on the top of the curve, you got yourself a really good grade on the EOC, you earn yourself an A in the class. It doesn't matter if you were perfect the whole year. You failed the EOC, you failed the class with an F, all right? And that's, you get no GPA points. Likewise, if you get an average grade on the EOC, like you get a C on the EOC, and that means you're going to get a 2.0 for the class, even if you did perfectly throughout the year. So at that point, giving grades is not as important anymore for the student. It's what they achieve at the end that's the problem. Now, I have my own philosophy with this. I have a lot of problems with that. How do you measure a whole student's performance based on one test they take once? It's kind of crazy if you ask me, some kids are not good test takers. Some kids will perform amazing feats throughout the year and do project-based learning and cover a lot of topics, do extra material. They do really well in really tough class with really tough teachers. But at the end of the day, the problem here is that different teachers treat students different ways. They have different ways to categorize what an A means. They use different standards. So what the state is trying to do is standardize education and say, hey, if you learn, you can pass this test, So I don't know who your teacher was. I don't care who your teacher was. I'm going to measure what you're supposed to learn according to the standards that the state is setting. And if you can't pass this test to prove it, oh well, you're not going to get a grade for the class. Now, you can retake the class or retake the test, but what matters is that you have to take the grade on the test. So that means if you fail the class, but you pass the test, you pass the class. If you fail the test, but you pass the class, you have to retake the test. So what's going to happen is that you're going to have some kids taking the class again or taking remediation classes just to take the test again. And you can take the test as many times as you want, but you need to pass that test to graduate from high school because biology is a required course. Unless you take it in the middle school, and then the rules are a little bit different. You earn the credit whether or not you actually pass the EOC course if you take it on middle school. So it's a good idea to take those EOC courses in the middle school. So a lot of schools will probably be pushing for that. The bad thing about this, of course, is that it will make teacher assessments inconsequential. It doesn't matter if the teacher is saying that the student is a good student. What matters is what the state is saying. And so everything that happens in the classroom is only leading up or preparing the kid for this test. So it's really teachers are going to start teaching to the test rather than teaching what they think the kid needs to learn, and that's a problem that I really, really dislike about that system. But it's the way things are, and you have to deal with it. Now, one of the things you need to understand about this too is that at this point, the teachers need to set high standards, and they need to set a goal that's going to get these kids to pass this test. And so it makes no point to give busy work to bump up grades. It makes no point to inflate grades because remember, grades make no sense anymore in the EOC courses. And so it's not about a grade anymore, really. It's about learning all the material. And so you got to make sure to teach the kids. And in that sense, I like it, because it puts pressure on teachers to actually perform and set high standards to make sure the kids actually pass that test. Now, having said that, historically, EOC exams have been, the average has been very, very low, which is another problem with this. The state average is very low, so a passing score ends up being something ridiculously like a 50% of the test correct. And that's not a good thing, of course. So I do believe that this is actually lowering the educational level at the end of the day, as a state as a whole, but it will work for some teachers which will be pushing themselves to teach the kids to actually learn the material and hold them accountable for actually learning. And grade inflation makes no sense anymore. And in that sense, I actually like it. There's no solution in education. You just got to live with the way that things work. And I hope this video gave you a broad explanation about the way that things work. If you have any questions, of course, leave comments down below, like and subscribe to the videos. And I hope you like it very much, and don't do anything that would not make your mama proud.